The future of science in Africa could most probably rest in the hands of young scientists, but unfortunately, little seems to be done to support them. To many early career scientists, getting funding is a perennial obstacle besides lacking networks, writing skills, and career mentorship. It is reasons like these that compelled Muii to stand in the gap for the last 10 years.
It started in 2008. We had been, within my research program, we'd been trying to help trainees to build capacity. We'd been taking on interns and trying to get support for people to do higher degrees and progress their careers.
Damali, Paul, Jacob and Harriet are among the many fruits of Muii that have joined the pool of relevant scientists. With Muii support, these fellows have embarked on research projects that will subsequently impact on scientific breakthrough in their respective disciplines.
For the PhD, we wanted to work on something there because there was an observation that there are two forms of sleeping sickness. We have the Gambian form and the Rhodesian form. So we wanted to find out what are the factors that make the disease more acute than previously, than what has been reported previously. So I looked at the immunology of the patients to look for key molecules that may help us explain why some people become more severe than others. Then I also looked at the parasite. I looked at the genes of the parasite to see if some parasites are more virulent than others.
I was investigating T-cell responses in Ugandan mothers who have mycobacterial infection and those who have non-tuberculous mycobacteria. And for this, I was using the unique non-tuberculous mycobacteria peptides to try and describe the T-cell responses. And the reason why I was really passionate about this project is for years we didn't really have the unique non-tuberculous mycobacterial peptides that distinguish mycobacterial tuberculosis from the NTMs. But because we were able to get connections with a team that had sequenced the NTM genes and identified these unique peptides, I was able to contact them and they gave them to me. And that was really the best of my master's, using these unique peptides that distinguished MTB from NTMs and to be able to understand the immune responses. And so that was my master's project. And it's from that I've been able to build on to do a bigger PhD project, still using those unique NTM peptides.
I got additional Muii support, and I got a project related to that, which is allowing me to access the UMIC at MRC. So that work has also gone well. We have a manuscript in preparation, which is trying to show us what is nowadays called a microbiome, because with the technique we used, we can both understand whether the patient has more than one TB germ or whether the anatomy, the architecture of what they call the microbiome or the important organisms in the sputum.
I'm researching asthma in children. I'm mostly interested in why do some children develop asthma and others do not. So those are the studies I've been conducting. And I've right now just completed a large case control study in which we looked at more than 500 children with asthma and 1,000 without asthma, and are comparing between the two different types of school children, 5 to 17 years.
What I did was still looking at immune responses with antiretroviral therapy, but I had looked at the adaptive arm of the immune response. And there was something intriguing about this, that the responses were it was incomplete recovery. The responses were not good. And this prompted me to think that what if it's the innate that is making the adaptive not to be responding as should be. So I had already had an interest in looking at the innate immune response. So I started writing a concept.
In this PhD, we are not particularly looking at a strong aspect of the environment, but we're just looking at the interaction of drug resistance at a human-animal interface. We are thinking that there are very many vectors that bite both wild animals and domestic animals. Wild animals are rarely treated, if so, but the same vectors bite the domestic animals. And when it bites the domestic animals, they are treated all the time by unqualified personnel. And then we think this is causing a pressure for the bacteria to evolve, to develop antimicrobial resistance. And we see a close interaction between the humans and the domestic animals, and this one now is what we are thinking is going to propel the pandemic of antimicrobial resistance.
My focus currently is looking at vaginal microbiota and its role in HIV susceptibility. My focus group is pregnant mothers that are attending antenatal care within Lago National Referral Hospital.
While almost all Muii fellows joined at master's and PhD levels, Beatrice's case is quite unique.
I joined the program in 2009, fresh from high school. I had done the International Baccalaureate Diploma and I didn't really know where to go, which university to go to in Uganda and what course to do. So I came here as an intern, high school intern, and I was able to interact with doctors at the Medical Research Council and also the lab team. So that's when I decided to do biomedical lab technology, basing on the advice I got from here. But all that is because of the internship I got from the Muii program. And then so I went ahead to do the bachelor's in biomedical lab technology at Makerere University. And my undergraduate project, I still did it within the MRC.
Like Beatrice, each of the fellows shares their experience before Muii came into the picture.
At that time, of course, I was an assistant lecturer. I had not been yet promoted. But I'd basically completed my PhD and I was looking for opportunities to progress from the PhD.
I had insufficient funding to do all that I needed to do. So Muii came in more as a rescue to the PhD program that had just begun.
I was in the program, I was studying MEd microbiology, but because I needed funds to do research, I took up an opportunity with Muii for a grant, for the master's study grant.
Before the Muii program, I was a medical officer. At that time, I used to work with the Infectious Disease Institute. And before that, I also worked with Muii Uganda, but mainly dealing in HIV-based research and training of healthcare workers in better management of HIV.
But at that time, I had just completed my PhD, so during the Muii postdoc, I was able to write up my manuscripts and publish work from my PhD. And at the same time, I got funding to conduct a pilot study on asthma, because my PhD had been on eczema, which is a different allergy.
I was doing small-time research, but majorly really doing clinical work and teaching students. So as a member of faculty of a university, we are required to always further our training. So at that time, I decided to apply to do a PhD program. And when I was successful, I became a Muii fellow.
As an adoptee, I was attached to a Muii member. That was my supervisor, Dr. Stephen Kos, who allowed me to incorporate myself into the fraternity.
Although Irene had wanted to pursue a more clinical-oriented PhD in medicine, the Muii program was focusing on infection and immunology, an area most medics fear to tread. She nevertheless risked it. Her decision seems to be rewarding.
I initially had a phobia, but I told myself that I could do it. I taught myself that this is what I wanted. I've been looking for a PhD program, and if it meant me trying to learn this mysterious immunology and to get something from it, I would try and go for it. So I later had to really change my whole mindset from a more clinical-oriented to a more basic science-oriented PhD training. So I learned that field, which is also helping me right now to be able to transform these skills to the MSc students in the Department of Immunology, so I can teach immunology, as well as my clinical subjects. So that is a plus for me. And I think that gives me an edge over my fellow doctors who are only clinically oriented. At least I can fall in both areas, basic science and clinical medicine.
For many of these scientists, Muii has greatly shaped their careers in different ways.
I've been able to garner a lot of confidence to stand before people and talk science. I feel like now I can speak science. A lot of trainings have happened. With Muii, I've learned how to write. We've done scientific writing, we've got grants writing, workshops, communications. I can be able to communicate my science. I can be able to engage different audiences with my work.
In most cases in Africa, even in Makerere, you find that when someone completes a PhD, they become orphaned. They drop out of academics because they cannot proceed, they cannot get grants. So they start doing other businesses like teaching in other universities or just sitting in the office and waiting for this and this. But what the Muii does is that it makes sure that you do not, it gives you that desire not to jump out of academics.
The program, first of all, is very engaging. It helps young fellows to learn how to write, but also help them build their research capacity, engaging with different mentors and different scientists, beautiful collaborations, learning how to do research methods, statistics, and all that, but mainly fostering capacity building.
On top of that, the Muii program has made an effort to do different trainings that are beyond the scope of science.
I had one of the most expensive projects in the department, and because of the generous financing by Muii, that's how I was able to complete my research. And I believe I've reached this far, being able to become the microbiologist that I am because of the financing from Muii.
It is every administrator's pride that what was started makes great strides. Steve and Harriet have been at the helm of Muii.
Obviously, one of the key successes is getting our Muii-funded PhDs and postdocs into significant positions within Makerere University themselves. So one is a dean, one is the head of the department, two are head of department. I think the other key success that we've had as a training program is getting our fellows funded.
We were particularly interested in helping people who wanted to link basic science to clinical or field work, and there wasn't very much capacity for that. There was very little immunology in Uganda when we started, and people got very excited about it. The Department of Microbiology at Makerere got very excited, and so we started a small lab there, and they had lots of people interested, so they started a master's degree. Now there have been many graduates from that degree as well as PhD.
All these milestones in just 10 years. This goes to show that Muii has registered remarkable success, and its contribution to Uganda's health sphere cannot go unnoticed. Muii fellows are urging for continuity of the project, but how is this going to be possible?
You know, if the graduates, as it were, of Muii can then win money to do related activities, then that means it's effectively sustainable, although whether it's sustained as Muii or whether it's sustained as people being able to win research grants and being able to win training grants, I think either way is valid.
Every AGM that we do, we get asked this question by the funders. What is your sustainability model? And my answer to that is, well, if you're interested in research, the sustainability is in getting your fellows funded. And I think we've been a pretty good example across the whole Deltas network of getting our early PhD fellows are now in positions where they're leading on their own research grants. They're heads of department, deans of faculty, and are running their own portfolio of research. And I think that's where the sustainability comes in.
For every teacher, the happiest moment should be seeing their students thrive. The most rewarding aspect about Damali's leadership experience is mentoring young people who are growing in their careers. Her biggest challenge is time. For Annette, it is being a young female leader in a male-dominated profession.
But that has not been the major one. The major one is when people think you're young. They're like, well, Annette, you know you're still young. You'll do this. I don't like people thinking that this has limit. But I'm happy these days people see that everywhere actually leaders are younger and younger. The other thing is creating time to be there for that leadership role.
And for Steve?
The most challenging thing is getting people to hit their deadlines for pretty much everything. I think that's a common issue throughout.
Annette is a senior, but nonetheless admits that as much as she teaches and mentors, she too continues to learn from those higher than her and wishes for more of that.
I think what I would need is really to get more professional skills as a leader, and actually I've embarked on that. I keep attending meetings, seminars, short courses, which can make me a better leader.
Damali has and is currently mentoring PhD and master's students, faculty, non-degree fellows, and different people from NGOs and institutions, including the Ministry of Health. Irene and Drago have a great passion for mentorship as well.
We realize that there's a group of people we are neglecting. So we have many people who are at the master's level, PhD level. Those are many, even undergraduate, who want to be mentored. Kind of easy to be mentored. But there are people who are kind of at my level, who are now in our postdoctoral early careers, going to senior level, who also want to be mentored. But because we are mentoring others, sometimes we neglect our own careers and we need to be mentored. So one thing about the Muii program is that at the recently completed AGM, we set out to have targeted mentorship program for these early career research scientists.
Because when I was at the AGM, they already started the matching. They matched me with the Professor David Dunn. Yeah, so that is the beginning. So they have already started the mentorship that we want. Because they know that at this level again, if someone I might be orphaned and again step out of the research and I go back to teaching.
I mentor very many people, some directly, many indirectly. For example, under the Muii program, I have 2 direct PhD fellows that I supervise and mentor. But generally, I have 6 PhD students that I supervise and mentor. But in addition to that, I mentor many other gynecologists, even students outside my department.
It is not all rosy with these promising scientists, as each has had hindrances. For Biraro, as a young mother then, juggling her job, studies, family and social life was almost impossible.
Would have fellows meetings every quarter. And when you hear what your colleagues are doing, you kind of tell yourself, like, you know what, you have to get over all this and move on because you're going to be left really behind. So it was like the fellows meetings they provided some challenge, like some positive energy, because when you see people have published, people are about to submit their thesis, you can't just sit back and think, oh, okay, in my self-pity, no.
10 years ago, one of the biggest challenges was in procurement. I think for Macquarie University people, that's still an issue. It's certainly far better than it used to be. Here on site with UVRI, we've had our own challenges in procurement, but we've worked with Macquarie University and we've worked with the procurement teams here so that we understand what their issues are and they understand what our issues are, and we've come to a very happy compromise, I think, and both our systems on both sides are improving.
With the Macquarie University setting, it's very, very difficult to be able to accomplish a PhD within 3 years, regardless of whether you already have IRB approvals, regardless of whether you already have samples. The Macquarie system does not favor the duration of the program. So those two need to be aligned. So now the biggest worry is that whether you'll be able to finish your training program within the allocated funding time.
Initially, The idea of mentorship was not in high gear in Muii. Had to look for your own mentors, and that was a little bit challenging. It kept us within our locality of mentorship. It came much later, while I was 2 years in the program, that the mentorship spirit actually was revived. And thanks to Muii, I've received such good mentorship in research.
It doesn't happen that easy. Like, you try to work hard, but the pressure to be able to complete your PhD in 3 years sometimes gets too much on you, and you feel like you're losing it.
I think this comes with also when you become more and more advanced researcher. You have so many things you need to do, so getting time for them can be a problem. But you find that you're called to be everywhere. Like, you have to head many maternal newborn committees. And now when I became head of department, that was a big challenge because I had now to use also some of that same time to do administrative work.
Damali's most challenging aspect as a leader is time. You need a lot of it while dealing with many people. Commitment and patience too. And for Harriet, her challenge is more of administrative.
Probably for me, this is maybe a personal aspect of the challenge, is to maintain a very active research program myself at the same time as supporting a lot of other people and the sort of more administrative aspects of running a program like Muii. So, organizing interviews for fellows, selection procedures, organizing meetings and follow-up activities, and organizing open days and all the very many different activities that we've had.
Lois dreams of becoming a world-renowned scientist. She thinks that the opportunity of doing her PhD under the Muii Plus program will enable her to not only teach in reputable universities world over, but also in many other institutions. The rest of the fellows boast of their milestones.
Did a clinical trial and got the primary outcomes from the clinical trial, and I was able to publish it. But also I built a biobank of samples from this trial, which I have used to apply for additional funding to complete the research in this area.
I've been able to present my work in international conferences. I have also been able to publish one paper, and one is in the pipeline.
Right now I can sit and write and critique a scientific paper. I understand the science. Right now I can be able to write a manuscript and complete it within a certain period of time, which wasn't easy before.
See, in these fellows meetings and AGMs, we meet international collaborators, experts in the fields that we are pursuing. So that kind of environment really nurtures you into what you really want to be.
Developing relationships and connections is a valuable tool to advance anyone's career. Damali, like the others, now have collaborations that they probably would never have had. The fellows can best attest that these networks have been worthwhile.
I went to 2 labs in the US that I continue to work with now, so it was helpful to train me on my laboratory skills, but also to get introduced to the researchers in this area. In San Francisco, the Gladstone Institute of Vaccinology and Immunology, and in Florida, working with the Vaccine and Gene Therapy Institute, headed by Rafik Sekali, who eventually moved to Case Western, and I've also been to Case Western to work with his lab. But then I was also able to travel and work with Sarah Rowland Jones in Oxford University. And working with these teams has helped me, one, to enrich my clinical skills, but also get a bigger network of researchers. So we exchange papers, we work on grants together.
My network is large. It isn't only within Uganda, it isn't within only the Muii family. Yeah, my network has gone to the UK, the US, and so on. So I'm grateful for that.
It was a wonderful experience. I had a lot of freedom to develop my study, and I got a lot of support. I got linked up with a professor at the London School who is interested in asthma, and I was able to work with him to develop the tools I used. And I was able to learn financial management because I was working with Godfrey, who was the accounts officer, helping me to manage the grants.
I'm happy to say that I have never really left Cambridge since I stepped there the first time in 2009. My partnerships there have grown. I had a mentor there, Professor Ashley Moffat, and she's still there. She's an expert in the field, which I've also become very known for, the genetics of preeclampsia.
One of the successes of Muii program has been proposal writing, which has seen some of the fellows win their own grants.
I won a grant from the Grand Challenges Canada, which helped to set up a clinical trial looking at adjunctive treatment among people who don't recover well with HIV treatment. So adding a statin to their treatment to see how it improves their care. I've also won a couple of grants from the University of Berkeley Alliance program that has helped to support our basic science research work to understand why the immune recovery system in our patients may not recover as well, even when they've been on treatment for over 13 years. Why don't they recover well to be like the HIV negative people?
I got another small grant with the Consortium for Advanced Research Training in Africa, that is Qatar. And that grant I was following another component of my PhD. We wanted to look at some immunological markers, if these have therapeutic potential against the human trypanosomiasis parasites that cause the disease. So that study is still, we have also completed it because it was for 1 year. Then during the same time also, we won another grant where I'm the co-PI with the Professor Owen David, who is the Deputy Director, the DRGT, Makerere University. So we wanted to make sure that we harmonize the curriculum so that the university has one single curriculum. Then we find ways of institutionalizing this curriculum so that the training is regular, these PhD cross-cutting courses. So that grant is still ongoing because it was for 3 years.
All the Muii fellows seem to agree that the program was well organized administratively. For some members though, there were small hitches. While Irene says the procurement process was ridiculous, Katete advises that the research budget for the postdoc be increased rather than stipend for better output that will have great impact.
Other than that, I believe that the progress reports enable us to be accountable and to be responsible so that we know that we are all moving forward.
I keep telling people that I've never been in a program which has very good financial discipline and compliance, but doesn't frustrate you. You know, there are some financial people who really frustrate. You know, once you comply, it's really good.
But when I joined Muii, I thought this is still, the bureaucracy is the same as in the university. So I thought you would request for resources will take months. So it is more, Muii is more solid and organized too for this.
Frankly speaking, it's one of the most organized consortia, research consortia that I know of, given that besides financing students, financing research, the follow-up, it's a rich network in which information can be shared easily, and besides the colleagues that I do interact with, it has a very good administrative structure, So every time you have a challenge, you have someone to talk to, and probably there is a solution.
It was a very exciting time, lots of work, and it showed me what I could do and how you could build collaborations with different people, and those ties have continued up to now. So to me, that was the most impressive aspect about the Muii period for me at that time. For me, I thought it was well packaged, well arranged, well organized, and it allowed me to finish the work because I needed to have extensions, which was inbuilt into the program. So in that respect, I think it was ideal, for my purposes. So from my point of view, I really don't see, much else that could have been done differently. I just hope it remains a venue where, for those who would want, you can try some risky projects because sometimes that's the only way to advance.
I believe they've done a good job. Sincerely, they're hands-on. It isn't like the executive pops up at the end and is like, okay, what was happening for the past 2 years? You understand? They've been hands-on from day one, from actual preparation for interviews for the actual program. So they've been involved, and involvement means that you iron out whatever kinks before they become obstacles.
Yes, indeed, it has been a successful program. Should changes in focus on immunity and infection be expected? What would be the way forward?
It's not really going to change as far as I'm aware. At least I hope it doesn't, because I think our model has worked over the last 10 years. So I would like to see that continue. So again, supporting the brightest young Ugandans to undertake masters and PhD students at an early age, and we bring those through. We support our postdoctoral fellows that have done very good work.
What we're thinking at the moment is we're still keen on our lab immunology and our bioinformatics and linking that into clinical work and field work. But maybe we'd also like to think about the science that people have done and how that has how it comes together and how we can build on the scientific results to develop some focus areas for the next phase.
When all is done, the fellows are more than grateful for the Muii opportunity that has made them the researchers they never thought they would become.
It's like the whole team is really supportive, so I'm really happy for the contribution they have had towards my science career, and I'm really happy for the lessons I've learned from Muii. And so what I would really love to do to also pass on the skills to other people so that they're like me. Yeah, so thank you to the program.
This has not been an easy task, but the collaborations and good relationship from different stakeholders has made this a great success.
It's nice to feel that even if whatever your own research may or may not achieve, if you support people to learn to be good researchers, you may actually achieve a lot more in the long run.